Never a doubt. The Mariners in Kansas City came away with the win last night. Day before, not so much. There is so much to talk about on episode 21 of the Hit It Here podcast. Most importantly, Joe, how are you?
I'm great, man. I'm doing a lot better than I would have been had game 2 against the Royals gone a different way, which it very well could have, based around the last 36 hours of Mariners baseball. I feel like it's been a roller coaster. So
What did I text you about this podcast about in the ninth inning? What did I text
it was in the ninth inning, I think right before Sewald walked Witt to get Massey on, right? Sewald.
Paul Sewald's still on the team?
Oh Lord, I'm having maybe I just want him back. Munoz got the bases loaded. I think that's when it happened. You said we're
remember.
boycotting the pod if they lose this game or if they give up something. And then I put my phone down, put it on the charger, went and took a cold shower because I
made a thumbnail.
Down. Yeah, it was a good one. Yeah, it's one of those ones where it certainly was a game of all time for the Seattle Mariners.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, you get a big offensive explosion from the team, it felt like. Teo went 5 for 5. You get a massive home run from Ty France, hit it astronomically far, it feels like. You get Josh Rojas' first home run as a Mariner. You just get good offensive production, and you squander it with lackluster pitching performance, something that you don't love to see.
And speaking of things that you love to see, Breaking Tea has come out with some brand new shirts, including the J-Rod Show and the You Love to See It shirt. Be sure to click the link in the description down below. Grab one of these shirts. You're helping us out, and they're really comfortable. You know what you don't love to see, though? Is that it's not time for Paul Sewald to pitch. I already hear you guys in the comments. Oh, goodness gracious. I hear you guys in the comments.
Yeah.
Well, would be nice if the Mariners had a proven closer in that bullpen.
It would.
I don't disagree with you. You're right. But at the same time, would you be in any of these situations without the guys you got in those trades? No.
Probably not.
There is no 10th inning against the Orioles the other day without Dom Canzone's home run off the windows. The Mariners, in the second game against the Royals, granted, Josh Rojas, had an error and arguably a second one where he didn't make the catch on the ball to right field, but he also had a 2-run home run. Otherwise, the Mariners would have not had that game tied up at any. You got to give something to get something. And the Mariners gave away their greatest strength, which was their bullpen. You could argue it was the rotation, just pitching in general.
Yeah.
To help their greatest weakness, which was the offense. And the offense, for what it's worth, has been a lot better recently. I have some stats here right now.
Oh.
So far in the month of August, so right after the trade deadline, the Mariners are hitting 260, 338, 449 with a 787 OPS. That's much better than the month before that. Actually, keep talking, Joe. I'm going to see if I can find the month before that.
I mean, it's no Atlanta Braves with a 130 WRC plus, right along with the Murderers Row Yankees. It's where the Rangers were at the beginning of the year. It's no offensive production like that, but from where we were earlier in the year with guys like Colton Wong getting regular at-bats at the very beginning of the year with Tommy La Stella, we have come a long way. There are still holes in the lineup, that's for sure. We can't be, perfect. We can't be those teams that are smashing the ball right now because we're still employing Mike Ford at the moment.
But the month of June for the Mariners, they hit 230, 308, 394 with a 701 OPS. In July, obviously, the Mariners had a better month. I think they hit right around 240 in that month. But obviously, the 260 they put up so far in August, there's still time for that to change, obviously, is way better. Also, if you hear a sound in the background and my voice sounds weird, it's hot.
Yeah.
I was sweating bullets watching the Mariners game. I have my AC on. It was 97. For those of you in the Seattle area, you know that it was hot as balls yesterday. Nonetheless, we've talked a lot of smack to the people saying, shouldn't have traded Paul Sewald, blah, blah, blah. But let's play devil's advocate a little bit here because, again, while the offense has been much better, the bullpen has been much worse. Yeah. That includes Andres Munoz, Matt Brash, etc. And in our members-only Discord, you can click join down below to become a member of that Discord. Code RED asked, what do you think of the Mariners' closer role at the moment? It seems that we don't have a reliable guy for this with Munoz and Brash struggling at times. Joe, where are you at with the bullpen right now? What's going through your mind?
Anger. Just pure hatred. Not really. They've been put into situations where they've succeeded in the past and it hasn't gone their way this time. I know this was Matt Brash's first, I think, big blunder of an outing in the first game in a while. He's been very consistent since he kind of settled back down kind of maybe saw his role change a little bit, but now his role is being changed back into more high leverage. The ninth inning is his biggest issue. I want to say, I can't remember who tweeted it. It was after the game yesterday, but that he's got like an ERA north of 9 in the ninth inning. So keep him away from it. Maybe he's scared, 7, 8, 9, right? Keep him away from it, put him in the 8th inning or something. I don't know. He can have high leverage, just not when it matters the most at the end of the game. Munoz, get that boy go get him. Go get him out of the game. I understand that your bullpen is short. You've got a long stretch of games ahead, Scott Service. I understand that. But you've got 2 guys in your pen that didn't throw any pitches today. I understand that you're not going to go to Ryder Ryan and you're not going to go to Trent Thornton. You're not going to those guys. However, you've got Taylor Saucedo, a guy that probably should have been in there instead of Trent Thornton in that 3rd game against Baltimore, who I think pitched in game 1, right? Or no?
Yes. I think he did, yeah.
Pitched in game 1 against Royals, but not a lot. I think it was minimal. He definitely could have gone out there earlier than he did in game 2. Maybe not have Andres Munoz throw his career high in pitches at like 44 pitches or whatever it ended up being, gives up the lead. All his confidence is shot, by the way, at this point, probably. You're not going to see him until the Houston series, which is where we'll probably need him most. You have shattered Andres Munoz and what his role should be with this outing, should it continue to be a compounding error, an issue in the future, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And that's on Scott. Or maybe it's on Woodworth, the pitching coach, for not being like, hey, go get him now. Get him out, because he doesn't have it. Even Goldsmith on the broadcast was saying, like, oh, his velo's down. His velo's been down, I feel like, for a good bit. He's not pumping 103. I think the highest I've seen him pump is 101, and then it's steady 98. That's fast. That's really fast. But it's not what we saw out of Munoz before. And it's not what you need for the slider to be as enticing when it's not bending as much, it's not having as much depth, and it's kind of just hanging out over the edge of the zone, and they're not biting on it. Granted, the Royals, I'm going to take a word out of Jay's, Trident podcast little Twitter vocabulary. The Royals are spitting on pitches that anybody on the Mariners would be swinging at. Shout out Jay. Go subscribe to his channel. But crazy. Just not working for Munoz. So get Munoz, just give him some mental health days. Let him put in some sick time. Don't see him until Houston. And your 9th inning guy should be Justin Topa going forward until Munoz is like, I'm ready to go back out there.
Yeah, and what you were saying before, obviously Munoz throwing more pitches than he ever has in a game before. So far in August, I don't know if this is updated through today's game or yesterday's game, but nonetheless, at the time of recording this, it says he's pitched 6 innings in August. I feel like there's more than that at this point. Mm-hmm. He's faced 27 batters, again, more than that probably at this point, which is coming up already on his 2nd highest in both categories so far this year.
And sure, he was injured earlier in the year, so he's ramping up towards the end of the season, which is, I feel like, a normal thing. But when he didn't have it. He didn't have the put away stuff that you needed him to have in that inning, and it should have been evident as soon as traffic started to accumulate. Sure, you can let 1 or 2 go. 3, 4, a hit, everything else in between. Go get him. I understand you want to have a longer leash because the way your schedule is set up, but you just can't afford to lose games like this right now.
Mm-hmm. And I have been a big defender of Scott Service. I always have been, but this has been on him lately. It truly has. The last 4 games for the Mariners, keep in mind the fact that they were in those 2 games versus the Orioles, fantastic, in my opinion. The fact that they were in those 2 games. Because the Orioles, in my opinion, offensively are a much better ball club than the Seattle Mariners, easily. Mm-hmm. But the Mariners were in all those games, and they made it close. And it was actually the bullpen that lost them those games, except for obviously game 2, where the Mariners scored 0 runs off of Cole Irvin, a pitcher like that. But the bullpen has seen a lot of action and a lot of moving parts since the departure of Paul Sewald. And like you said, Andres Munoz, he needs some days. I think going forward, the 9th inning needs to be between Topa and Spire. If you want to work matchups, I think I do not understand why Gabe Spire is pitching like the 6th inning for
every single time. He's the first arm out of the pen, pretty much.
Yeah, get that guy into high leverage. He has been that good.
Yeah,
get him into high leverage until he proves he can't do it. And Saucedo's the same.
Yeah,
Saucedo's been really good.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just makes no sense to me that you're relying on Brash and Munoz, who have both been overworked. Brash, at least before the game on Tuesday, had thrown the most games in all of baseball with 59.
Yeah.
No one else had thrown more games than him in all of baseball. He's
Yeah.
overworked. So is Andres Munoz. I get that they are the high leverage strikeout guys, but Justin Topa and Gabe Spire, they're getting outs right now. Those are the guys you need to rely on. And it leads us to an interesting question with the rest of the series, because like you said, so game 3 versus the Royals, you have Luis Castillo on the mound versus a to be announced, has not been announced yet, probably an opener of some kind for the Royals. An already taxed bullpen for the Royals. Hopefully Castillo can give you length. You need Castillo to give you length in game 3.
Yes.
I don't know if a bullpen move gets made before today's game, but I would not be shocked one bit, especially if Castillo only goes 6, if there's a bullpen move before game 4.
The thing that I have an issue with a bullpen move for this one is, who do you send down? Because the two guys that are most likely to get sent down, or optioned, Isaiah Campbell and Ryder Ryan, did not pitch in game 2. So realistically, they're going to be the first arms out of the pen should it be an appropriate situation for them. Obviously, Matt Brash did not pitch in game 2, so he is the premier arm that Service will likely want to use in a situation where it's necessary against the Royals in game 3. So I agree. You want Castillo to go at least. I feel like you have to have him go 7. 6 is like pushing it to where it's like, okay, like how are you gonna dance around this one again, right? And if the offense comes out and drops another 7 head on them, whatever, great. You just have
let
to
Castillo eat it. If he's got pitches, let him eat it at that point.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
If
If he's been efficient and he's still getting outs, like, yeah, I get what you're saying. But the move probably won't come over tonight where, after we're done recording this. It'll probably have to happen after game 3 where you're sending down Campbell to bring up Baroa, or you're sending down Ryan to bring up maybe even a Riley O'Brien. I think Devin Sweet pitched in the game yesterday, in the same day that this game 2 happened. I think he was pitching. I saw a highlight on Twitter, okay?
Sounds good to me. I don't know.
Yeah, you have no idea. And it's just the corresponding moves, you will probably need to make them, because we saw the last time the Mariners had a huge stretch of games. Those moves happened in the pen because the arms got used. It's going to happen. It's just the guys that you should send down, you can't, because they're the most viable arms out of your pen going to game 3.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part. Again, you're playing the Royals, which somehow have been the hardest team to beat in all of baseball for the Mariners.
They're so annoying.
Kauffman Stadium is literally a house of horrors for the Seattle Mariners. We thought, well, I'm not going to say it. We thought it was Minute Maid because they go to Minute Maid after this, but so far they've been good at Minute Maid this year.
Yeah.
I hate Kauffman Stadium. I hate it. It's the worst. It's the absolute worst.
A lot of people really like it because it's very pretty with the fountains and stuff.
I'm sure it is, but my goodness, the Mariners play like poo-poo caca there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. You're playing the Royals, so you have to hope they're not going to lay down and die. They've proved that. Obviously, the Mariners were up 7, and realistically,
dude,
let's talk about game 2 a little bit more.
Let's talk about we're talking about the 5-run inning.
Well, I want to start it off by saying I think Emerson Hancock has been surprisingly good.
He didn't have a lot of swing and miss, but I don't think the Royals are really a big swing and miss team. They're very nitty gritty, grind out at bats, kind of put the ball in play and beat you with speed, which they did in game 1 and almost did it in game 2. They literally ran into an out that helped save the game for the Mariners in game 2. So I didn't see the plays where that put Hancock into a jam where Bobby Witt comes up with the bases loaded. But
the big one there is the pop-up that neither Rojas or Teo got to. That should have been caught, would have got them out of the inning, no harm, no foul.
Sure. And then is that the next at bat then Bobby Witt Jr.?
I don't remember exactly the sequence. All I know is that there should have been 3. I don't know if that was supposed to be the first out, what have you.
Sure, but at some point, 3 outs would have been had that play been made.
Bobby Witt Jr. would have never come to the plate.
With the bases loaded. Got it. Yeah, I don't know. I think Hancock did what he was supposed to do, just the team did not help him out. They helped him out offensively. They, got him to a position where he could probably win a game, but the defense behind him in that inning let him down. And then subsequently, the bullpen also let him down. I think you're not wrong in saying that Hancock has been surprisingly good. He's been decent. He's been serviceable. I think we'll be excited to have Wu come back soonish. I think sometime next week is the timetable on that. Sucks that Marco's out the rest of the year. Have him back in 2024 whenever he's ready. But yeah, I think Hancock did what he was supposed to do. It's just Bobby Witt Jr.'s on a heater. Shouldn't have even been up in the first place.
Emerson Hancock's been good at baseball so far. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've
been pleasantly surprised.
I don't think, sure, you could complain about giving up a grand slam. I don't think there's, outside of that one pitch, I don't really know if there's this overwhelmingly thing that you can be like, he hasn't had it. You know,
I don't even think you can complain about the grand slam.
I mean,
it's Rojas or Teo's fault, and
Sure.
it's the fact that Bobby Witt Jr. is good at baseball's fault.
yeah, I mean, you know, it's the same thing like Sal Perez's home run against Logan Gilbert in the first game. That splitter or whatever, splitter or slider, I can't remember. It was low.
It was a splitter.
Low and
He had no
outside.
business hitting that out.
Especially to dead center. Sal Perez is just hella strong. I don't know. Like, if you're in that situation, you probably don't want to have to go to the bullpen early. But do you go to a guy there at 4 2/3 to try and change up Bobby Witt Jr.'s like approach? I don't know who you go to because you can't really call on Brash, I don't think. It's too spent. You don't want to waste Topa that early. It's either Campbell, Ryder Ryan, or Trent Thornton.
Yeah, and do you have more faith in those guys than you do Emerson Hancock to
Probably-
get Bobby Witt Jr. out?
Probably not. So
Yeah.
it's a coin flip, I think, in that situation, and it just didn't land on the right side for Emerson Hancock.
So it's interesting because the Mariners they're 9-4 in the month of August. And if I would have told you before the month of August that the Mariners' first 13 games they were going to start 9-4, you would have been thrilled.
Yeah.
You would have been super excited that they were 9-4. But it's because of how they lost, the fact that they followed up an 8-game winning streak with a heartbreaking 3-game losing streak where they could have won all 3 games.
Yep.
Mariners very easily could be on a 12-game winning streak right now. Very easily. Especially that last game against the Orioles. The Dom Canzone home run, Cedric Mullins robbing that home run. Like, you were this close. That close. At least 6 inches. That close to winning that game. And then, of course, the 1-0 game is, we don't want to talk about that game. But
yeah.
You could be 12-1. Yes, you could be 12-1 in August right now. But you're not. And that's just the way it works out. But the fact of the matter is, the Mariners over the past 45 days are playing their best baseball.
Yeah.
It's fact of the matter.
Yeah, I mean,
They are still one of the best teams in baseball right now.
Yeah, you follow up June, their worst month. They went 9-15 with their best month in July, and then on track to have another best month in August. It's the right time to be hot. I said it right before we started recording that the 3 losses are just the worst placed because of you're coming off an 8-game win streak, and it's just 3 tough losses all in a row. If you flip the 9-2 victory to either game 2 or game 3 against Baltimore, the outlook on those 3 losses so far, not so far, of the 4 losses in August is the narrative behind it would be so much different, I think, because you start off Baltimore on a high, 9-2. You're like, oh, we can take it to Baltimore every single game this series, and then you don't. And then it's not necessarily a struggle because it was close in the following 2 games, but they're heartbreaking games to lose. If you have a heartbreaker, come back and bounce back 9-2 and then have another heartbreaker, it's not nearly as weighted, I feel like, in terms of the narrative ball that is Mariners Twitter, where it's the world is ending and the world's on fire. And don't get me wrong, I was mad in game 1. The bunt got down, Dylan Moore failed to field the ground ball. I immediately picked up my remote, turned off the TV, and went and put away dishes. You know how mad and just not wanting to live life I gotta be to put away dishes? Like, that's an all-time low. That's an all-time low for me. You know what
Why
I mean?
is Dylan Moore playing first base in that scenario?
I don't. Who would you rather go to? Dom Canzone,
or even Mike Ford. I don't care.
I think Ford.
Not Dylan Moore.
Sam Haggerty. Dylan Moore or Sam Haggerty?
Do I have to choose?
Yes.
Tom Murphy. First
Okay.
base. Tom Murphy hurt.
Probably. I mean, Cal's played, I think, 5 games in a row. All
Tom hasn't done anything yet.
long, grueling games. A bunch of extras, long at-bats, just awful on Cal's knees. He's going to need a day off soon.
And speaking of injuries, let's talk a little bit before we wrap up here about the injuries to the teams in front of the Mariners.
Oh.
Because Jose Altuve is out. He came out with a knee contusion in Tuesday's game. Not sure how serious it is. As far as I know, it has not been talked about yet. And then obviously another team that's in front of you, which is the Tampa Bay Rays. They have what's going on with Wander Franco, Shane McClanahan out for the year, which we kind of already assumed.
Yeah.
The Rays aren't playing their best ball. You're going in to play the Astros after this series with the Royals, and then you'll be playing the Rays in the next road trip, I believe. And who knows who comes back at what point. I know Bo Bichette's coming back soon for the
Blue Jays.
For the Blue Jays. Blue Jays have played well, and the problem is the Mariners, even after winning the second game in Kansas City, they didn't gain any ground. They're still 2 back of the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
And still the same amount back that they were from Houston. And so it's not a huge, they kept pace, which is what matters, especially as these guys go into harder parts of their schedule. But you would like to see them, they made up a lot of ground. But you'd like to see them now, with their hot stretch they're on, see the teams in front of you start to falter a little bit. And you start to gain ground be rewarded for the good-ish baseball you've been playing.
Yeah, the Blue Jays also got Jordan Romano back in yesterday's game, and he closed out a 2-1 win for them against the Phillies. You know, tooth and nails, close game there. Keeping an eye on every single Blue Jays game right now. But yeah, I think the Altuve injury could be big. It was, big at the beginning of the year as well. Same time when they lost Jordan. So that's another one to definitely, because the Astros are not that far ahead. I think
they're 3.5 games ahead of the Mariners in the division.
So it's within striking distance, the same way the Blue Jays are within striking distance. So there's moments to seize some opportunities, if you will. However, the Blue Jays and the Astros, they're both very, very good teams. They're teams that can fight through adversity, and they've shown that by losing guys for some periods of time throughout the season and still being ahead of us right now. And we could say the same thing because we've lost 2 pitchers, maybe even 3 if you want to count trading Paul Sewald as an injury. But it hurts my heart. But, losing Robbie Ray and Marco Gonzalez, and then Brian Wu, Phantom IL, whatever. We've fought through those as well.
The biggest one, in my opinion, is JP. That's the biggest one. You need him back so bad because he sets the table for you. He has like a 379 OBP on the year, one of the best shortstops in all of baseball in 2023. Getting him back from the concussion IL is going to be pivotal for this team. Because if you think about, yesterday's game, for example, he would have been at shortstop, and then either Josh Rojas or whatever is at second base. The fact of the matter is, if you don't trade Paul Sewald, you just have to deal with Caballero or Wong over there at second base, like we have been all year. So the fact that they traded for Rojas gives you the option to move someone over to shortstop, but you still want JP back. And in the end, if that means whenever he comes back, allegedly he's feeling better, he's on the right track. I don't know if that means he's going to come back at the 7-day mark because concussions are so hard to predict, but
it would be the final game against Kansas City. I don't think.
Would it?
Yeah, so that would be the first day. If anything, I think we see him in Houston. I don't think he would travel. If he's not with the team right now, I don't know if he's in the clubhouse or the dugout or anything. But if anything, I think the first game we'd see him back is against Houston if he's ready to go. And I agree. I completely went over my head thinking about J.P. Crawford, which is incredible because I've got his jersey hanging up behind me. I've been staring at it for the majority of this podcast. Yeah, you're missing him a ton. You really are. Even as a guy that could go out and maybe settle down Andres Munoz and be like, hey, you got this. Throw me a ground ball. We'll turn 2. End the game. Something along those lines. Just to rally the troops, essentially. To keep the guys' heads on straight. And, there have been moments where, Cal's gone out there for an extra mound visit, it feels like, to try and do the same thing. And Cal, great leadership qualities as well. You are missing J.P. Crawford still, even with guys coming into their roles like that.
And you're even missing his bat this year. I mean, obviously, you'll never be able to know, but would the Mariners have won one of those 3 games they lost in a row with J.P. Crawford? It's entirely possible. That's just how close those games were. Putting J.P. Crawford over there instead of Dylan Moore or Jose Caballero, you're already adding a much better player at that position. And
Caballero had a good day at the plate in game 2. He did.
Yeah.
It's just, I think there's give and take with every single side to this argument because It is JP Crawford. We've seen what he's produced for us, and it's hard to argue against the fact that he would put us into a better winning position, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree with that. And winning the next 2 games against KC, I think, is pivotal. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. That is going to do it for this episode of the Hit It Here podcast. We appreciate you guys checking out this one. Mariners taking on the Royals tonight. See you guys soon, and go Mariners.